We will weigh.
After the prosecution gave its submissions about why the defense's no case to answer motion should be rejected, today Sang's defense had the floor to convince the judges why they should find that he has no case to answer.
Your Honours, may I remind you again that at the end of the prosecutor's less than 12 minutes of submission against Mr. Sang, for the last 5 years, they had not a single audio against Mr. Sang. They had absolutely none. Now, this question of whether or not Mr. Sang has a case to answer, we ask you to be very cautious of where witnesses are dealing with the fifth conclusion in a series and chain of presumptions and saying this is what Mr. Sang said.
During the confirmation hearings, the prosecution convinced the judges that Sang was part of a network called EMO that apparently planned and executed the violence.
The case against Mr. Sang, as you have seen in the submissions, is the prosecutor repeatedly says, please infer that Mr. Sang must have said this. For instance, please infer that Mr. Sang, when he reported about rigging, wanted Kikuyus to be attacked, wanted the roads to be... We are saying that, in fact, no direct evidence, and for purposes of our case, direct evidence would be an audio. There is no direct evidence of any culpability on the part of Mr. Sang, even when the totality of what the prosecution have said is taken at its highest.
Must we find a network before there can be crimes against humanity? Finding.
If you do not find a network, then you have no jurisdiction to try this matter. It is a domestic issue if there is no network without an organizational policy. That is our position.
Sang allegedly broadcasted to his predominantly Kalenjin audience that PNU was planning to rig the election to deny ODM its victory.
We demonstrate that that was a live subject all along since 14th December. First of all, it is meant to contradict the prosecutor's allegation that it was initiated and it was ordered by Mr. Sang. And we demonstrate that it is common knowledge in Kenya. It's a discussion that was going on, and in fact, Mr. Sang was very moderate about it.
How did you demonstrate that?
Mr. President, we demonstrated, number one, first of all, by bringing public knowledge documents, particularly newspaper articles, showing that was a discussion since 14th December. We featured material from other media houses and Kass FM showing that the ODM party and the ODM leader, Honorable Raila Odinga, was saying, I know for a fact, and I'm saying this, that it is not a propaganda, I'm quoting Raila, not necessarily word for word, that I know for a fact that, in fact, the PNU intend to rig elections. That's what Raila says. And Sang at the studio says, you've heard what Raila said. However, number one, do you think what Mr. Raila is saying is true or not? Please call back and say whether you think it is true or not.
Sang allegedly described the Kikuyu people as the enemy, parasites, weeds, thieves, a nuisance. 5 words that the defense says the prosecution hasn't provided audio evidence for. The trial has entered a critical stage, and it's make or break, particularly for the defense teams, because if they sufficiently convince the judges that the accused have no case to answer, then the case will come to a close. But if the judges reject the defense's no case to answer motion, then Joshua Arap Sang and William Ruto will be put on their defense. Sylvia Chebet, Citizen TV, from the International Criminal Court in The Hague, Netherlands.